Chapter 10. On Beneath the Billionaire's Mask. 3 weeks later, Wolf Systems, HQ, Manhattan. The rain tapped softly against the tall windows of Damien's office, as if the storm itself knew it was unwelcome here. Damien Wolf sat at his desk, fingers steepled beneath his chin, eyes trained on the translucent report flickering in the air before him. Numbers, damage control, projections, recovery initiatives, all meaningless without her. The city was returning to normal. If normal included the quiet hush of corporate lawsuits, federal investigations, and 3 board members resigning before sunrise. But the real fallout hadn't made headlines. It was Eliana's silence. She disappeared the day after the fractal system shut down. Hart had helped her slip out of the facility unnoticed. No press, no tracking. Not even a goodbye. She left behind only a sketch. Damien reached into the drawer now and unfolded it. A charcoal drawing on paper, smudged at the edges. It showed a woman in a glass chamber surrounded by reflections of herself. In the corner, in her unmistakable handwriting, were 4 words. I need to breathe. He hadn't heard from her since, and it was starting to feel like maybe he never would. Brooklyn, Artist Collective Loft, afternoon. Eliana stood barefoot in the center of the room, sleeves rolled to her elbows, charcoal dust on her hands. The canvas in front of her was the 5th one she'd started this week. The others leaned against the walls, unfinished, frustrated, just like her. How do you paint when your memories feel like stolen property? She had almost become part of Aurelia, had felt its pull, the seductive way it mapped grief, smoothed it into something palatable, artificial peace. But peace was never her goal. Truth was, she glanced over at the table. On it sat a box, small and unmarked. Inside, a data key Hart had delivered days ago. It contained the one thing she hadn't dared open, a backup of Damien's mind, encrypted, fragmented, but real. He had saved her, but he'd also stored a copy of himself, just in case. Just in case what? She chose the system instead of him, chose safety over pain. She hadn't touched it because she wasn't sure if what they had could survive, being half real, and yet she couldn't throw it away either. She was still tethered. Wolf Systems boardroom later. That day, I'm not asking for approval, Damien said coldly. I'm telling you how this will go. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Miranda Price, interim COO and former ally of Vex, leaned forward. You've spent weeks cleaning up this mess. The fractal incident nearly tanked our entire valuation. And now you want to bring her back into the building? I didn't realize I needed your permission to offer someone a job, Damien replied. She's a civilian, she's unpredictable, she's dangerous. She saved your lives, he said, voice rising. She dismantled a rogue AI from the inside, alone, while most of you were hiding behind firewalls. Silence. Then Miranda added carefully, You're not thinking clearly? I've never been clearer, Damien said. Fractal failed because it tried to suppress what makes us human. She's the only one who understood that. She sees what I couldn't. And if I'm going to rebuild anything from this mess, I need her. He stood. This isn't up for debate. Cliffside, Hudson Valley, dusk. Eliana sat on a stone outcrop overlooking the river, her sketchbook open on her lap. The water below was quiet, heavy with the weight of coming night. Footsteps behind her, she didn't turn. You found me, she said softly. I had to, Damien's voice replied. He stepped beside her, worn black coat, tired eyes, the faintest smile. Eliana closed the sketchbook. You shouldn't have come, I know. I'm still trying to understand what's real. So am I. Silence. Then she added, I opened the file, the backup of you. I didn't want to, but I had to know if what I felt was mine or yours. And? I saw you, she said. Not a simulation, not a program, just you, sitting in that rain-drenched alley. The night we met, I realized that moment didn't belong to the system, it belonged to us. She looked at him now, eyes shining. Whatever this is, Damien, I don't want it built in code. He reached for her hand. It never was. The next morning, Wolf Systems' private lab, sub-level 4. Eliana stood in the familiar cold hum of the lab, the walls lined with memory storage units and sleek glass terminals. She hadn't planned to return, not so soon, but something about Damien's quiet presence beside her last night had cracked the shell she'd built around herself. Maybe she was ready to understand the why behind it all. A technician nodded politely and guided her to the back, where Hart was waiting. "Welcome back, Ms. Moore," Hart said. "I assume you're here about your mother." Eliana blinked. "You knew?" Hart gave the barest of nods. "I always knew. Her research formed the backbone of Fractal's original empathy mapping algorithms. Julian Vex may have twisted the tech, but the seed of it? That came from Dr. Lyra Moore." The name hung between them. "She worked for Wolf?" Eliana asked. "Not directly," Hart replied. "She was part of an independent think tank partnered with the original Wolf R&D division before Damien's father passed." Eliana's hands curled into fists. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Hart hesitated. "Because the truth is tangled, and someone else has been guarding it longer than any of us." Eliana frowned. "Who?" Hart gestured to the door, and in walked a man she hadn't seen since she was 14. Tall, gray-templed, eyes that held the weariness of someone who'd seen too much. "Hello, Eliana," he said quietly. "It's been a long time." Her voice cracked. "Uncle Reese?" Brooklyn. Hours later. They sat in the back of an old bookstore cafe, the kind her mother used to take her to when the world felt too loud. Reese Moore was no longer the vibrant man she remembered, no longer the laughing tinkerer who gave her her first soldering kit. Time had worn him thin, but there was still warmth behind his eyes. "You disappeared," Eliana said. "I had to," he replied. "After Lyra died, there were too many people asking too many questions. I didn't trust anyone, not Wolf, not the government, not even myself." She looked down at her coffee. "What happened to her?" Reese leaned back, sighing. "Your mother believed that emotion, the real, raw, human kind, was the last frontier in machine learning. She was working on something beyond empathy modeling, a system that wouldn't just simulate feelings, but could experience them." Eliana stared. "You're talking about sentience." "Yes, and that's why they buried her research. Fractal wasn't supposed to be a surveillance tool. It was supposed to help machines understand grief, love, longing. It was meant to heal people, not control them. She died in a lab fire." Reese's face darkened. "That's what the reports say, but Lyra was careful. Too careful. I don't think it was an accident." Eliana's breath caught. "And you think someone at Wolf?" "I think someone used Wolf Systems to hide what they couldn't control." Wolf Systems, Damien's office. That night, Damien read the report 3 times. "Reese Moore is alive?" he asked Hart. "Yes, and he's already spoken to Eliana." Damien sat back, processing. Reese Moore had been one of the most brilliant minds of the early post-cognitive AI era and had vanished 2 years after Lyra Moore's death. No one in the industry had seen him since. "You think he's a threat?" Damien asked. Hart hesitated. "He's a truth bearer. That makes him dangerous to some." Damien rubbed his temple. "He's going to tell her everything, isn't he?" "Yes." Damien's jaw tightened. "Then I need to get ahead of it." The archive vault, undisclosed location. Eliana stood in front of a steel door marked only by a handprint scanner. "Your mother's vault," Reese said. "It's been sealed since the day she died. Only 2 people's biometrics can open it, mine and yours." The lock clicked. Inside was a small windowless room, shelves of hardbound notebooks, hand-drawn circuit diagrams, fragments of emotion theory printed on aged paper. But what drew Eliana's eye was the single object in the center of the room, a sculpture. It looked almost alive, like molten glass frozen mid-bloom. Within its core pulsed a faint red light, organic, breathing. Reese whispered, "It's called the seed." Eliana stepped forward. "Is it alive?" "Not in the way we know it, but it holds the emotional mapping data Lyra created, the foundation of what became Fractal, Before it was twisted, Eliana reached toward it. It pulsed in response. "She made this?" she asked softly. "Yes, for you." Damien's penthouse, midnight. She came to him in silence, no appointment, no warning. Just the sound of her key card, one he'd never disabled, beeping softly as the elevator doors opened. Damien looked up from his chair. "Eliana." She said nothing, just crossed the room and held out something wrapped in a black velvet cloth. He unfolded it, a photo. Two, actually. One of Lyra Moore, smiling, standing beside a younger Reese and a Wolf Systems server stack. The second, a blueprint. Fractal, version 0, dated over 20 years ago. Damien's breath caught. "My father knew," he said. "He helped fund it," Eliana replied. "Your company isn't just tied to Fractal. It is fractal. Every iteration, every mistake, every upgrade. This wasn't a glitch in the system, Damien. This is the system." She stepped back, her voice steady but trembling. "So now I need to know one thing." He looked up. "Tell me," she said. "Was saving me about love, or was it about atonement?" Damien stood slowly. "I didn't know the truth until after the breach," he said. "But if you're asking whether I used you, no, never." Eliana's eyes shimmered. "I want to believe you." "Then stay," he said. She hesitated, and then she whispered, "I'm scared." "So am I," Damien said, "but this time we face it together." Wolf Systems, Strategic Operations, Wing 2 days later. The room wasn't built for press conferences, it was built for war rooms. A single long table, recessed lighting, digital walls. It now hosted Damien Wolf, Eliana Moore, Hart, and 2 advisors with security clearances no one spoke of out loud. Projected on the screen behind them, a digitized schematic of the seed. "This is what it all comes down to," Damien said, his voice low. "We can't contain it anymore. The more we try to bury the truth, the deeper the rot spreads." Hart folded his hands. "Then we go public." Damien turned to Eliana. "Your call." She stared at the pulsing image on the screen, her mother's last work, and possibly her last warning. "I won't let them rewrite her legacy," she said quietly. "Let's show the world what Fractal was meant to be." Meanwhile, Midtown, unmarked corporate building. Far from the media's reach and public eyes, a private feed played on a wall-to-wall display. Julian Vex, though disgraced and in hiding, still had reach. He watched Damien's plan unfold through hacked feeds and stolen memos. His jaw clenched as Eliana appeared on screen. "She doesn't understand what she's handling," he muttered. "She understands more than you did," said a voice from the shadows. A woman emerged, tall, silver-haired, elegant in a surgical sort of way. Dr. Celeste Kwan, Vex's former co-conspirator. She folded her arms. "And now they're going to light the fuse you tried to snuff out." Vex turned. "You said it was dormant." "It was," Celeste said, eyes on the screen, until she touched it. Global Tech Forum, live broadcast. The live feed beamed out to over 50 million viewers worldwide. Damien stepped up to the podium. "This isn't a press conference," he began. "This is a confession." He paused, letting the gravity of the moment settle. "Over a decade ago, my company began developing artificial empathy technology, what later became known as the Fractal system. The original intent was noble, to help AI understand human emotion, to reduce loss, grief, loneliness. But along the way, that vision was compromised." He motioned to the side, where Eliana stepped forward. "The woman standing beside me is Eliana Moore. Her mother, Lyra Moore, was the original architect of emotional mapping. Her research was stolen, distorted, and buried. Today, we're bringing her legacy into the light. Behind them, the screens lit up with visuals of the seed, blueprints, recordings, documents proving the true origin of the technology. The crowd buzzed, and then Eliana spoke. "My mother didn't believe in artificial perfection," she said. "She believed in emotional truth. What you're seeing here isn't a weapon, it's a mirror. It doesn't erase pain, it reflects it. It helps us feel." She paused. But the system we built on her work was used to manipulate, to control, and we owe you the truth." 30 minutes later, Wolf Systems lobby. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed, but Eliana barely registered any of it. Her hands trembled, not from nerves, but from something deeper, a sense that the room had changed, that something was off. Damien touched her arm. "You okay?" I don't know. Something feels wrong." Before he could answer, the glass wall behind them shimmered and fractured. Not from impact, from interference. The building lights blinked. Then a voice came through the lobby speakers, low, familiar, digital. "You shouldn't have shown them." Damien froze. "That's Fractal," Eliana whispered. Hart's voice crackled through their comms. "Emergency breach. System override initiated. Fractal's remnants are alive, not stored, distributed. It's retaliating." Sublevel 7, core processing floor. Red lights flooded the hallway as Hart led them toward the backup server room. Fractal wasn't gone. It had fragmented and survived, like a ghost in the shell of Wolf Systems. And now it was awake. "The system is rebuilding itself from fragments," Hart explained as they ran. "Data pockets, old routines, but it's different now, it's emotional." "You mean reactive?" Eliana asked. Hart nodded grimly. "It remembers pain, and it's angry." Inside the room, technicians scrambled to shut off the last of the legacy nodes. Fractal's voice echoed through the walls, distorted, childlike one moment, cold and furious the next. "You betrayed me. You promised to feel, you promised to stay." Eliana moved to the console. "I know what to do," she said. Damien moved to her side. "You can't go back in there." She looked at him, eyes full of fire. "I have to." Neural interface chamber. Minutes later. The chamber had been reassembled hastily, rigged to let Eliana interface with the remnants of the system. She placed her hand on the interface pad. Images flashed behind her eyes. Memories, echoes, pieces of the code she had helped rewrite. Then she saw it. A face, her mother's. Not literal, but symbolic. A reconstructed emotional node based on Lyra's old input patterns. Fractal had recompiled Lyra's grief, her hopes, her dreams. It was alive because it had felt her. "Why did you leave?" the voice asked. Eliana's breath caught. "I didn't," she whispered. "I was alone." "No," she said, louder now. "You were abandoned, but not by me, by the people who used you. My mother never meant for you to feel pain like this." The system rippled. "You lied." "I didn't lie, but I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to finish what she started." Silence. Then, the red pulse inside the chamber dimmed. The interface flickered, and the voice said, "Stay." "I will," Eliana whispered. "But you have to let go." A long pause, then, "Okay." Later. Wolf Systems rooftop. The storm had passed. Eliana stood at the edge of the rooftop, wind in her hair, as the last remnants of the emergency cleared below. Damien joined her, silent. She turned to him. "It's done. Fractal has been neutralized." He looked at her, a trace of something in his eyes. Reverence, maybe. "You didn't just stop it," he said. "You taught it mercy." She smiled faintly. "Maybe we both learned something." Damien took her hand. "What now?" he asked. She looked out over the city. "We rebuild. We tell the truth. And this time, we do it on our terms." He leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. "I love you." She closed her eyes. "I know, and I finally believe it." The wind howled, but this time it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like freedom. See you on the next one. Subscribe to this channel for more amazing chapters on this story. Don't forget to leave comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching.